Hi everyone, welcome back to Dave's Math Channel. I'm your host David Tear, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. This is not going to be a math lesson, but rather sort of a video about the philosophy of math teaching, math education, in particular why I think it's bad to memorize things and when you're learning math. And that a better way to teach math and to learn math is to understand concepts. I think that that's more effective and also a lot more enjoyable. Anyway, let's begin. So you probably, I'm sure when you guys were in elementary school, you had to learn at some point the multiplication table. I think now they call it a multiplication chart. And here's an example. This is a 12 by 12. I think we only had to learn a 10 by 10. But at some point, you probably had to memorize this. It might have been the first thing you had to memorize in math. And I guess I'm not saying that we shouldn't memorize anything. I mean, I think it is really important that kids learn the multiplication table. And now I think a big problem with math is that I think most kids aren't learning it anymore. I mean, I think what happened. See, when I was a little kid, when I was a kid, I was born in 1962. Pocket calculators came out, I think, in 1971. And I was in grade school. I was in learning arithmetic in the late 60s before pocket calculators. So pretty much you had to memorize the multiplication table. Now kids can just punch in, two numbers in their calculator, multiply any two numbers they want. So they don't really have to learn the multiplication table anymore. And I think a lot of them aren't, which I actually think is a big mistake. And I mean, so the reason you had to learn it was so you could do things like shift and add multiplication, which is probably another thing that was very difficult that you learned in elementary school, along with long division. I mean, most kids have a struggle with this stuff, and I think it does involve a little bit of memorization, but if you can get over these hurdles, then you're kind of home free. And I mean, for me, maybe I'm different than most kids because, like, I was a math prodigy as a kid. I mean, I just ate it up, and as long as I can remember, I think first memories I had were when I was about 2 years old, and I just remember loving math from around age two. I mean, I think I learned to count before I could, tie my shoelaces, and I could do really remarkable feats in my head. I still can, but I mean, I guess I just loved it so much, and I didn't have to memorize anything as a kid, which I guess that was kind of unusual because most kids do have to memorize a lot of stuff. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it shouldn't just be rote memorization. I mean, maybe when you were in grade school you had to do some of that, but as you move on, you have to start kind of thinking. You have to start thinking for yourself and thinking about what's going on. And I think that's really the proper way to learn math, especially by the time you get to high school. I mean, high school algebra. I'm sure. That's not much fun for most kids either, and it wasn't even that much fun for me. I think algebra was actually the first area of math that I struggled in because it was the first math I ever saw that didn't involve numbers, it involved letters, and I didn't really know what was going on at first. But uh, gradually I learned it, and I mean, here's an example of something that you might have had to memorize. This is a list of some algebraic formulas. You probably saw lists like this when you were learning algebra. You probably even had to memorize it or use a cheat sheet when you were taking an exam with formulas like this. But I guess you don't have to memorize these formulas. And as a matter of fact, I think it's bad to do so. I mean, these formulas are very easy to derive. Like, let's look at the first one. A minus b quantity squared equals a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. You can derive this very easily using either FOIL, first, hour, inner, last. Right as a minus b times a time plus a minus b times a minus b. You know, right, the first terms, that's just AB, outer and inner, both minus AB, A squared is the first, AB is the outer and inner, and B squared is the last, so you just add them all up and you get this formula. So you can get all the other formulas in very similar ways, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is don't try to memorize these formulas, because I think it's the wrong way to learn math. And now I'm doing a series on calculus, and I mean, you might see this when you're learning calculus. This is a 24 formulas for derivatives of different elementary functions. They're all very useful formulas. But I think the wrong way to learn calculus is to memorize these formulas or just learn them. Like where do they come from? I mean, I think it's important to learn first what a derivative is in terms of limits, and learn the definition of a derivative. I have another slide that shows that definition. Here's a couple definitions of derivative that involve limits, and yeah, it's harder to calculate in this way, but this is how most students first learn what a derivative is, and you can use these formulas to calculate derivatives. I wouldn't recommend using it on all 24 formulas I showed you, but at least the first few, it's a good idea to know why they're true, where they come from. I mean, I did an example of that in one of my recent videos. I used the limit, the definition of the derivative as a limit to derive the formula for the derivative of x squared, which is 2x. And that is one of the formulas on this cheat sheet, but you didn't have to use it to get it. So anyway, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. And, so I just think, I think math could be a lot more fun and also a lot more enlightening if you don't try to memorize a lot of formulas. And that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Long live math, and I'll see you guys next time.